From JBS Studios in Greater New York, this is the JBS News Update with Teisha Bader.
I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Monday, October the 16th, 2023. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken returned to Israel today after meetings in 6 Arab countries, including in Egypt, to discuss Hamas's brutal terrorist attack on Israel just over 1 week ago and efforts to secure the release of hostages and protect civilians. Blinken met today with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, where he discussed his engagements with partners in the region, also meeting with Israel's President Isaac Herzog, reiterating the United States' support for Israel's right to defend itself from Hamas terrorism, also discussing the coordination underway to focus on the safety and protection of civilians placed in harm's way by Hamas and efforts to secure the swift and safe release of hostages. There are also reports that President Joe Biden might also be arriving in Israel soon. Herzog also met today with a bipartisan delegation of U.S. senators on a solidarity mission to Israel led by Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. The delegation also includes Republican Senators Mitt Romney and Bill Cassidy and Democratic Senators Mark Kelly and Jackie Rosen. The president said of the senators, they came to stand with the people of Israel and to make clear that when it comes to the war against Hamas and Islamic Jihad, we are all on the same side of the aisle. We stand together in the unequivocal demand that Hamas immediately and unconditionally release the hostages, some of whom are also American citizens. In a press conference, Schumer said, as the first Jewish majority leader and highest ranking elected Jewish official ever in America, I felt I had to be here, conveying the steadfast support of the United States.
We say this to the Israeli people. We have your back. We feel your pain. We ache with you. And we and our country will stand by you in these difficult times.
Meanwhile, rockets from Gaza continue to be fired at Israel this weekend and into today, including at southern Israel and Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, where sirens sent members of Israel's Knesset to the parliament's bomb shelter. The IDF continued hitting terror targets in Gaza and today shared footage of its Navy's most advanced warships carrying out their first ever strikes on terror targets in Gaza. And Israel's defense ministry and the IDF announced that Israeli residents living within just over a mile of the border with Lebanon will be evacuated after attacks continued from Lebanon. IDF spokesperson Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari said terror group Hezbollah carried out a number of shooting attacks yesterday in order to try and divert our operational efforts from the south. This under the direction and backing of Iran. And the IDF said today that it is carrying out artillery strikes in southern Lebanon after troops once again came under fire on the border. Israel's Knesset opened its winter session today with a moment of silence for the more than 1,300 people murdered in the October 7th assault. Netanyahu addressed the parliament, saying there are many questions about the disaster that befell us 10 days ago. We will investigate everything thoroughly. However, now we are focused on one goal, uniting our forces and storming forward to victory. Netanyahu said Hamas is part of the axis of evil of Iran and Hezbollah, who seek to destroy the state of Israel. Netanyahu yesterday met with representatives of the families of the hostages being held in Gaza by Hamas, saying one of the goals of the war is the return of the captive and missing. The families of 199 people in Israel have been notified so far that their loved ones are being held captive. The Times of Israel cited Hagari today, saying that Israeli forces have been searching on both sides of the Gaza border for the missing and for any evidence that could lead to further information on their whereabouts. And as Israel prepares for an expanded operation in Gaza, IDF spokesperson in reserve Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Conricus reiterated Israel's evacuation call to Gazan civilians, telling them to leave Gaza City and move southwards for their own protection. A warning he said many have heeded, however, that Hamas has been stopping Palestinians from evacuating. Israel also said yesterday it was restarting the supply of water to southern Gaza after an agreement was reached between Netanyahu and President Biden. Energy Minister Israel Katz said the decision will help push the civilian population of Gaza southward. Well, ending our news tonight with some images of memorial, of solidarity, and of hope from the last few days. Candles lit in Tel Aviv's Dizengoff Square for the victims of the Hamas massacre. In New York, at Golda Square, a memorial. Last night, several NFL games held a moment of silence. And on Thursday night, Israeli superstar Noah Kirel sang the Israeli national anthem, Hatikva, the Hope, at the Barclays Center in New York City, where the Brooklyn Nets played an exhibition game against Maccabi Ra'anana. Taking a look now at our programming for tonight on JBS for Monday, October the 16th. At 7 o'clock, I speak with David Michaels of B'nai Brith International about a meeting held last week with the UN Secretary General and what the UN is doing and should be doing after the brutal attack in Israel. At 7:30, a war briefing from FIDF Live. At 8, Abigail Pogrebin speaks with bestselling author Helen Schulman about her book discussing trauma and self-preservation. At 8:30, Caroline Glick speaks with law professor Avi Bell. At 9, Rabbi Aryeh Katzen is on L'chaim. At 10, Chief Rabbi of Moscow Pinchas Goldschmidt analyzes European anti-Semitism. And coming up next, it's Good Week, Israel. And that's the JBS News Update for Monday, October the 16th, 2023. I'm Teisha Bader. Am Yisrael Chai.